Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogside. It is I, Alex, your host. We got Dave, we've got Steve. We've got a lot of travel that's about to go on with our little club. We're not going to talk about that though on the show because we have too many other things to talk about. No, wait, we have to vamp. And honestly, let's vamp because what is going to be more fun? Talking about getting your ass kicked by the Bills, talking about how you're going to get your ass kicked by the Eagles, or talking about a petition about the name again.
None of those things are great. I first of all would like to point out that I think we've shamed Alex used to count us down like we're on a TV show.
There's a little shame in it now.
And like Dave and I kept like flashing gang signs at him during it, and I think we shamed him into stopping it now. So I like a job well done.
I was actually waiting for him to come up and give us the bird at one time at least. The double one.
Well, when you go, see, the problem is you'd have to like totally turn your hand for the bird. It's like that's you can't do that in a smooth motion. Like count 3, 2, 1.
No, you go 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, you could do it that way, but no one counts down with their hands facing backwards.
1.
I'm just proud that we shamed Alex into behavior change. I mean, I'm happy about that.
I'm a Jew. Shaming me into behavior change is all my parents did.
It's born from a millennia of persecution.
Like 3.5 millennia of like that's how we raised people in Judaism.
Exactly. God, we're tapping into your Jewish heritage, like Jewish trauma.
There you go. Catholics have it too, right? I think that they're the only.
Not this bad though.
No.
I think that you could. There's documented like you
Jewish
said millennia
guilt.
of.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's reason they believe everybody's coming after them because they are.
Yeah, our biggest fear was the nuns taking the yardstick and cracking across our knuckles.
Right.
That was the biggest fear we had.
Right.
See, I've got lots of Catholic schools stuff because I spent 2 years as a non-Catholic in a Catholic middle school.
Yeah,
which was
you've
fun.
told us about that off air before.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that on the air, but suffice to say, they did not like me.
No,
and I did not comply.
Well, the best thing I ever saw was that when I had one of the nuns sit there, we was going to discipline one of the kids in the class, and he came up and he grabbed, and when he came up to the front, he grabbed a yardstick and snapped it over his knee and threw it and said, "Now what?"
See, my thing, I had leverage because I was also the best student in the school. So, like, what are you going to do to me?
Right.
And they did punish me at the end of it all, actually. But at the end of all that, they said, yeah, you can't be the valedictorian, even though you are.
Yeah.
That was their punishment. At the time, I was happy. I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to make a speech.
And little did you know, then you'd have a podcast.
Maybe I'll disclose that school after all.
So yes, we do. It's a rough show, honestly, when it comes to topics. This is maybe one of our roughest ever.
We have to find some humor in some of this stuff.
Yes, we're gonna have to find a lot of humor in the shellacking that happened last week. But let's get into it, guys. Sam Howell, I think, is still picking dirt out of his hair.
Do you want to do the lawsuit first before you get into what
All right,
you want?
let's do the lawsuit.
Let's get that first.
It's fairly
let's get that
quick,
out of the way.
Right? So Steve got a hold of the petition and just gave it a quick read. This lawsuit by NAGA against the Washington Commanders. It is technically a defamation lawsuit if I read all the articles correctly.
Yeah, okay, here it is, real quick. I had about 5 minutes to go through this thing, but I did pull the petition down out of Pacer.
I assume it's not a lot. I'm assuming it's a fairly
as petitions go, it's 20 pages. It's not by petition standards, not too much. It's filed in the federal court in North Dakota, first of all.
Just where NAGA's headquartered.
So that's why. Yeah. So the defendants are the Washington Commanders, Josh Harris, Matthew Lauk, Laux, and the National Congress of American Indians. And first of all, I don't know what the ownership entity is of the team. This petition claims it's literally an entity called the Washington Commanders. I didn't have time to look that up. Dan Snyder's entity was called Pro Football Inc. So I don't know if they have this part right, but that's not the
It's
point.
still the Harris Group is the actual owner because the
Well, it
Harris Group
probably
owns.
isn't. It's probably called something else, to be perfectly honest with you. But I didn't have time to look it
Oh,
up.
okay.
That's
Yeah,
not
yeah, they would
relevant.
have like another paper layer in there. You're right.
Yes,
That would
yes.
make sense.
Um, but so yeah, this is a defamation lawsuit, and the general gist of this here is that the NAGA entity, Native American Guardians Association, claims that this Matthew Lauk guy, Lux, I'm going to say Lux,
How do you pronounce it or spell it?
Laux.
Laux.
I'm going to say Lux.
I'm gonna go locks. Jewish
Okay,
thing again.
fair
Or
enough.
Lou.
Matty
Lou.
L.
Oh, you
So
want to
I'm
go
going to
that
call
route?
him, I'll call him Matty L. So Matty L. Um, was a ticket salesperson, and he told a potential customer who he spoke to, who was a fan of the name Redskins, that this NAGA group was, quote, a fake group. And so that got published. And so the argument that NAGA here is making is that that is defamation because they aren't a fake group. You can say they aren't a large or influential or wealthy group for sure, but it is a legitimate, I did look this up, it is a legitimate 501c organization.
Right.
And so in that respect, they're not fake. And so that is the heart of the defamation claim. Now, how the team gets roped into this is they've alleged conspiracy here, and they're claiming that Matty L speaks for the team, because he's an employee and he spoke. And then I think that is um, relatively plausible. I think he's got a halfway decent argument on that part. To say it's a fake group when it's literally not a fake group. I think they've got a passing argument for a defamation
Well,
case.
it depends. They're claiming it was published. Where was it published?
Well, it
Like,
doesn't matter. I mean, it's slander is oral and libel is publishing. They're alleging both. And it did
okay,
get
so
published. It got published all over the place, that claim. Yeah, because I read what this Matty L guy said, that was published. Um, so the part where I don't really buy it nearly as much is the conspiracy part. What they're saying here is that Josh Harris, let me back up. Then NAGA's one that put that petition out that I know Dave and I signed. I don't know if you signed it, Alex. I signed it.
no, of course not. I'm not. I knew what that was from the beginning.
Well, I knew too, but I signed it, and they say it's 132,000 some odd signatures as of the date of filing here. And what they're saying is that when that came out, and this NAGA group started to make some traction in public, then Harris contacted the National Congress of American Indians, and they got together and decided to put out a statement of their own, which is quoted in here, and the statement is saying, here it is. Apparently, I didn't even know this group put a statement out, but apparently it said it was a meaningful first step towards the commanders owning the history of its former name and taking accountability for the unspeakable harm caused to tribal citizens after decades of racism and erasure. So they're saying that is a conspiracy to defame NAGA, all of that, and that is pretty tenuous, I think. One, I don't know, they have to prove that Harrison, this National Congress of American Indians, did all that. But even if that's true, I don't know how that's defaming NAGA necessarily. That's just making an argument about the name itself. So I think that's tenuous. And there's another claim in here about a conspiracy to violate NAGA's civil rights, which I think is even more tenuous. They're making kind of the same argument and saying we have, it's to argue against the legitimacy of our organization is to make an argument against the true history of Native Americans, which is a civil rights violation. That part is tenuous. And then the damages is just monetary damages. So if anybody thinks they're trying to force the name on the team or something, that's not what this is. It's just damages, monetary damages. So that's the gist of it. So to summarize, I think that the basic defamation claim has legs. The conspiracy, a little bit tenuous, and then the conspiracy to commit civil rights violations is pretty weak. So that's my, in 5 minutes or less, read. It took me longer to explain it than I spent reading it, just to say that. But that's my view of it. So I don't know if this is the kind of case you're going to settle just because it's bad juju to settle this. But if you took it to a jury, I think you could have a case about defamation at least.
I still think even the definition's a long shot. I mean,
Well,
you're
I
talking
mean,
to a
again,
sales
here's the
guy.
basics though.
Yeah.
This is, the guy said, this is a fake. Let me find it here.
I got it right here actually. He was texting with someone he was trying to sell a suite to, and he said, you understand the people that started this petition is a fake group, right?
Yeah, there you go. That
Yeah.
right there, technically speaking, is defamation. So they've got a case for defamation. I'm just telling you, Alex. They have a. It's not a great.
I'm sure
it's
that
not
you could
the
say
worst
they
thing
have
in the
one.
world.
It's even that's to me seems pretty thin.
Well, I mean, respectfully.
Do you know how many times I've been called insulting names in text? It happens all the time.
And it's got published, and then they have a libel claim, So I
To be
get what you're
clear,
saying.
it got published because of the lawsuit. His text was
No, it
to
didn't.
a
I read
salesperson.
this. No, I've read this before. I knew about this before. It got published elsewhere.
I would say I need to see it because I don't believe that it got published
I knew
before
about this, though, Alex. I've read this like a month ago.
Where?
Well, I know. Well,
I
I
don't
know.
remember.
I
But I
know
knew
that there
about
was an
this.
article I came across. They were talking about that,
Yeah.
but I don't think that article necessarily was saying they were a fake group. I know there was an article talking about
Well, it doesn't
the
matter.
claims of it being whatever, something like that.
I mean,
but I
But
know,
if they
Jason
publish
Wright
the words
said
fake
he
group,
didn't take them
that's
seriously
right.
at one point, but that wasn't the same thing.
And
Well,
look, this petition is kind of making a point. I mean, there's this preliminary statement in here that goes on for 3 pages or 2 pages, talking about the history of Native Americans and this and that. They're definitely just kind of making a point here for sure. What I'm saying here is that the petition is at least enough not to get sanctioned for and thrown out of court about. And if they could make a basic case for defamation here, I think. Are they going to get tons of money? No, probably not. But that part is, but I think the other parts, certainly the civil rights case is going to get thrown out of court. And I think the conspiracy is really weak too.
Oh,
So there you go.
The conspiracy. I mean, they're conspiracy theorists. That we've seen from some of the other things they've published.
Well, see,
So-
like a conspiracy to commit defamation would mean that Harris and this, what is it, National Congress of American Indians got together and said, listen, we need to really put NAGA in his place, and so we're going to get out and we're going to say they're fake. I'm going to get this Matthew Lauk guy to say they're fake. That would be conspiracy to commit defamation. But that's not really what happened. What they're alleging here is that Harris and this National Congress of American Indians got together to put a statement out that says the Washington Commanders did a good thing by refusing to change the name. That's not disparaging that's not saying anything about NAGA. So that's why it's a weak case.
Yeah, I mean that stuff is definitely getting thrown out, of course. Or not thrown out, but that's just not.
Well, they'll be. Yeah, I mean, federal court. I mean, you can file. You can make motions to get stuff thrown out, and you do that as a matter of course. So we'll see what we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I will be shocked if anything comes of this.
I mean, in some respects, they've kind of made their point by filing it. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's a whole class of politics, by the way, where you file lawsuits just to make a point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, and again, I mean, this petition is going on and on and on about history and stuff. I mean, you don't need to say any of this, in here, but they're doing it to make a point.
Right. Think
well,
of.
I think.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I think right now, if they want to avoid having any kind of defamation comments made against them, one, they would have a little more of a Native American presence in the forefront, which they have not had in the very beginning, and for a little while when they were on, was it Newsmax or Newsmax, right? They were on,
it was Newsmax or what's the other ultra right wing?
They were the OAN. They were on as well too, I think.
They might have been
something like that.
Yeah.
But everything was representative of everything. When you look at, was just looked like a fan of the Redskins and Redskins gear, just talking for a Native
Right.
American group.
Their
You know,
top
even though
two spokespeople is that guy and then a professional
and
PR
that woman,
person.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and and I know that they have members of Native American members on their board, like you
Yeah.
mentioned before, Steve, and so forth. And they are a 501c group. I get all that, but but right now most people don't dig as deep as you do when they see you on the surface. That's what they see on the surface. Like, well, this is just a Redskins fan throwing us together. It's not a real group. And then I'm trying to find a comment that they made on social media. There's a couple of them, and they made comments almost like political type comments that
Well,
kind
they
of
made
went
a bunch of anti-trans comments at one point.
right.
Yeah.
They were getting themselves involved in conversations that was beside the point. And, there were controversial comments, regardless what side you're on. That part doesn't matter. So if you want to be taken serious because you're trying to do something for a Native American group, trying to do something for the Redskins name and for the logo, keep your name, keep your business out of those comments. Stay away from those politically controversial topics, and have a little more of a Native American presence in the forefront for people to take you serious. Most people are not going to die or research like you do, Steve. So it's like, well, when you put all that together, well, this just looks like a fake group just trying to either make money or just cause a stir or whatever it is. And so they kind of paved this way for this to happen in certain aspects. Although I'm not defending what happened, because you're right, Steve. They have a right and they have a leg to stand on, sure. But if you want to be taken serious, be serious. That's all I'm saying.
And this isn't where I originally saw it, but I just kind of Googled this while y'all were talking. And so this, at least back on August 29th, this is from the nationaldesk.com, is talking about this fake group thing in this Matthew Laut guy. So, and I didn't see it here. I saw it somewhere else. But so that was out there at least a month ago. And this
Okay.
petition
So there was
just
something
filed.
out there. That's
Oh,
fine.
yeah, there was. So anyway, so that's it. So don't, I mean, it's not the trial of the century here, folks.
No,
No.
right.
No, it's probably just I will be shocked if it's even ever mentioned again, frankly.
I mean, in the media, the case
Yeah.
has got to be dealt with.
Sure.
It's not, put it this way, it's not as dumb as that guy who was the former football player who tried to buy the team and had all this crazy financing.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That
Well, he was
lawsuit
a former
was stupid.
NBA player, not a.
That lawsuit was stupid.
Yeah.
This lawsuit is not stupid. It's just, it's not
And
it's not really meant to be hardcore legal work, put it that way.
And besides, the NFL will never allow this name to come back again. It's not coming back. Just move on.
Well, everybody knows that. Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody knows that. Yeah.
Oh, I think almost everybody knows that. There's still
Anybody with a
almost-
brain.
Yes. There's still a few people who have their, dreams.
Well, that's the reason that I didn't choose to buy the team.
Yeah.
It was only
and
that.
6.1 or what was the total?
Oh, I had that already set aside.
You
Yeah,
had
you
a
might have had,
percentage of it ready. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a percentage of it ready.
Yeah, but I don't think $6,100 would have got you much.
Don't burst my bubble.
All right. Speaking of burst bubbles, oh Sammy Howe, what happened?
He sucked. That's what happened.
That is what happened.
Yep.
I don't know if we've ever seen such a bad game by a quarterback in Washington history. We've seen a guy get sacked 9, 10, 12 times. Carson Wentz, I think, got sacked 12 times or something last year.
Did he? I don't remember 12 times, but
Or maybe not 12, but when they played the Eagles, he got sacked.
a whole
I think you're
bunch of
talking
times.
like it was like sacked like 6 times, hit like an additional 12, 14 times, something like that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't, and we've seen 4 interception games. I don't think we've ever seen both in one game.
We have to read the stats because it's just too much fun not to.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't let's suffer.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, Sam Howell was 19 for 29 for 170 yards, 4 interceptions, 9 sacks, a quarterback rating of 41.5. Brian Robinson, 10 carries, 10 carries, 70 yards, or 7.0 yards per attempt. Curtis Samuel was the leading receiver, 2 for 54. Terry McLaurin was 6 for 41. Cole Turner, 4 for 35. Jahan Dotson, 2 for 21. John Bates, 2 for 12. It goes down from there. One fumble is Antonio Gibson. On defense, weirdly, Cody Barton was the leading tackle with 13, including 7 solo. Jamin Davis, 11 with 6 solo. Kendall Fuller, 8. And that goes down from there. And so, Tress Way, drum roll, please. So we have
There we go.
a net passing of 125 yards, and then
Mhm.
we have and then 170 gross passing yards, as already said, and we
Yeah.
have 105 yards rushing. Do we think Tressway outpunted the offense?
Yes.
I'm gonna go yes too. Because also, it was just that kind of game.
Well, weirdly, no,
Oh,
he did
wait,
not.
wait. It's gonna be no because we screwed up those field goals.
Well, also they had 5 turnovers. Remember,
Yeah.
he didn't actually
That's
punt
true.
that
Yeah,
much.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
When they turned
Yeah.
the ball over every series, Tressway was actually only 3 for 150. He's had way more games. He's had games in the 300s before.
Right. Right.
So no, but it wasn't for a good reason. It was because
because
Washington
they
repeatedly
turned the ball over on
over.
downs and on
Yeah.
interceptions.
Yes.
By the way, I googled it. The worst quarterbacks in terms of interceptions in a game. Sammy Baugh back in the day had 6 because it was the early 1900s. That's what happened. And Jay Schroeder had a 6 interception game as well, and that was in 1986. So I don't remember it because I was 3.
Well, I mean, I remember that season, and I mean, do you remember, Dave? I mean, I remember that Schrader did not play well.
Right.
I know.
And they
I know.
kind
He
of
had a
benched
great.
him for
Well, he had a huge
Williams.
disconnect with the locker room. Nobody could stand him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got
that
really
just kinda gives
benched
them-
because of like the bad play.
Right.
Now
That's what I
Schrader
remember.
only 4 sacks that game, so
9 sacks is a lot.
9
That
sacks
really
is
is a
a
lot.
whole lot. Steve, I don't know if you've seen this, but they're making a really big deal right now about this locally. That Hal is on pace for 107 sacks.
Oh, I wrote about it in the takeaways.
Yeah, I know you did too, but like I see it on Twitter and hear it on the radio like 10 times a day.
I think they need to go for it broke, man. I
Just
mean,
go-
if you're gonna break a
let
record,
it road.
Go for it.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Because I think, if I recall, I think David Carr has the record at
Yes.
76.
David Clark.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we
76.
could get Washington up over 100, that is impressive.
Yeah.
That'd be an unbreakable record.
Part of me says, let's go for the record. Let's
Well,
put even worse players out there.
So the record is he has to take them all though. If
I know,
he gets
I know.
sacked at like sack 99 and he's down and on IR now, then he doesn't get to the 100.
I
And
know,
a
that's the
problem.
problem. He's got to be tough.
Yeah.
Because he's got to imagine taking 100 sacks in a season.
We
That would be
just got
that'd
to
be
put
insane.
extra padding everywhere.
Yeah,
Just
exactly. Just like
put him in a
walk around
sumo
like the
suit.
Marshmallow Man.
Or like that little boy in the Christmas Story. He
Oh,
put all
yeah,
the winter
yeah.
coats on.
Absolutely. Look, but here's the thing. In all seriousness, he holds a ball way too damn much,
He does.
and I don't think he has his good moments for sure, but he also doesn't process the field very well. There's times when he just leaves people wide. He left somebody wide open in the end zone. At least once in that game, and there were more. So, from a sack perspective, yeah, the O-line sucks, but also Howell sucks too, in terms of that. So you got to put some of the blame on him, and I don't think the problem gets solved easy because you've got dueling problems here. You've got an offensive line that can't pass protect worth the Tinker's Dam. Then you've got a quarterback who, much like Robert Griffin, held the ball and held the ball and held the ball, and then he doesn't see the field. So it's a combination of a bunch of factors.
Yeah.
I think he's so worried about getting through all of his reads, all of his progressions, instead of just taking what's in front of him. It's like the very first game I made that comment on that first drive. It was the third play of the game. I literally was sitting right there, and I saw him look at De'Ami Brown, just stare at him, breaking wide open downfield. He had plenty of time to throw, nobody in his way. and he went down. He went to his next read and his third read, which was Jahan Dotson right there on the short crossing route. You know, it was like he looked at him and was like, "Well, hold on, I got to look at my other reads first." You know, and it's like, and I had a conversation with someone about that before, and he said, "Well, young quarterbacks, you know, outside of your true pedigree type quarterbacks, your young quarterbacks take time to break that habit of coming off of the, well, I gotta be locked in and doing this 1, 2, 3, now pick my route or hit my check down."
It's
You
very
know,
kind
and
of
he
rote.
hasn't.
It's like one,
Yeah.
2, 3, look back,
Yes.
and that's part of. But that's I totally agree. Two things. One, he's not that young. You know, he played a lot of college games
Yeah.
compared to
He
some
did.
quarterbacks
Sure.
recently.
3 years. Yeah.
And he's also in his second year in the NFL. Yeah, he only played one game last year, but so he's not young like some. Like
But he
Trey
also
Lance.
doesn't have
Like,
that. But he also doesn't have that pedigree of
yeah, oh
the
yeah,
pro league quarterbacks. So
absolutely.
it's going to take him longer. But unfortunately, the time is going to take him. You have that time to wait.
But I think he does what you're suggesting, but he also sometimes just misses people.
Mm-hmm.
He
Sure.
doesn't always.
Sure.
He's,
Absolutely.
hit his reads.
Well,
I
just
mean,
like
I
that
think there,
touchdown you said he missed in the on that one
The play
drive.
I'm talking about.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jahan
absolutely. Yeah.
Dotson, I think is who it was that
yeah,
was just
wide
sat
open
like
on the
right
end
at the goal line.
zone. On the
Yep.
goal line. Yeah.
And he was just looking towards the other side of the field, and
Yeah.
that's part of it. Look, that happens to everybody. Let's be realistic. But the things that are more concerning to me is one, there is a stat line out there that says Washington's one of the most covered receiver groups right now, that their receivers just aren't getting open on most of these passing downs, which is a problem. The other thing that I've been looking for, and I haven't gone back. I haven't had the stomach to go and watch the All 22 again yet. Where are the safety valve type plays? Like who's the hot read on a lot of these? The short easy pass, just dump it to the running back or a tight end or like a slot receiver going across the middle.
I
Like,
mean, he's hit those sometimes.
he is
goes
hitting
to them
those sometimes,
Yeah.
but like he's got to know that's his number 2 option right now with his where he is at. Like, his one should be Terry Deep or whoever it is, but there should always be a easy, quick dump off pass as his number 2 option here. And I think that's on Bieniemy maybe for not drilling that into him yet. We don't know if that's we're not in the coach's room, but it sure seems like they're going for the big plays and all.
I'm glad you brought this up because I haven't been particularly impressed with Eric Bieniemy in some respects. I'm not. I mean, and not about his play design necessarily. I mean, I don't. I haven't studied that closely, but the play calling, he's
he's very pass happy,
way too pass heavy, especially in the first half, early in the game. But what is working is the run game.
Yeah.
And he just ignores this, consistently. And I mean, you could go.
B-Rob.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Robinson has been doing pretty well, and it's a mistake by Bieniemy. I think you can only blame Bieniemy for calling. He had 30 pass attempts in the first half against the Broncos, if I recall. That's crazy, especially for a young quarterback. When you have a young quarterback who's struggling, who's getting hammered in pass protection and all what we just talked about, gee, wouldn't it be nice to have a running back who's averaging well over 4 yards a carry?
I can give you a moment early in the game last week where I think it perfectly sums up something where that's an issue. Very first drive, they're doing okay, but then Sam Howell gets sacked twice in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And you go back to him on 3rd and 20? Just run the ball and take the field goal at that point. Realize that this is a young quarterback. Don't put that pressure on him, because that's when he's most likely to make a mistake. That's, a coaching issue right there, honestly. I don't mind, pushing him a little bit here and there. See if he can make a big play. But situational football kind of dictates in that situation, run the ball, kick a field goal. Because even if you get 2 yards on the run, you're still in good field goal range.
I agree completely with you.
Right.
I mean, I know the fan base is gaga over Eric Bieniemy, but
Right.
I,
And
I
look, I think he's a lot better than Scott Turner was.
Scott Turner didn't really have a plan.
No.
It was just kind of weirdly like ad hoc, and
Right.
I get
Well,
it, but I don't really like Eric Bieniemy's plan. you
Well,
know,
I think as far as his play calling, especially his route design and stuff like that, Mark Bullock breaks it down beautifully whenever he does it. I mean, his the route concepts he has and the play designs are very good designs he has. But it's like you said, he's just going away from the run too fast. As far as going back to receivers not being open, Terry McLaurin had that interview talking about spacing. The receivers
Yeah.
aren't getting spacing. They're not hitting the spaces when they come out of their routes and so forth. And the one thing that, and I'm sure someone may correct me out there that I could be saying this wrong, but if I recall correctly, that in Philadelphia, Andy Reid and his offense was always predicated once their receivers came out of their routes, it was their responsibility between them and the quarterback to understand what coverages are being done, where the spaces were in the zones, and where to sit down when they come out of their route. When they come out of a button hook route, they're not just doing an 8-yard route coming back and boom, sitting there. When they come back, they have to come back and alter their route into an hole, an opening,
Yeah.
and that quarterback is supposed to simultaneously read that, which was always McNabb's biggest problem. His anticipation wasn't there to do that. A lot of times that's why he threw a lot of balls in the dirt or whatever, but that's another conversation. But you have to come out of your routes and sit down into the space and generate an opening for the quarterback to throw to. And the quarterback at the same time, as he's going through his progressions, where I think Hal is struggling at as well, he's got to recognize that space, recognize the route that receiver is running, and understand while he breaks in his route, he's going to be right there when he's done. So I'm going to place the ball there. And then when he comes in his route, he's going to get into that space. And there's your timing, your precision route right there, which goes back to some of the West Coast system that Bill Walsh always ran. So, and that's what's not happening. So it is somewhat on the receivers as well. McLaurin took ownership of that, but Hal just isn't recognizing that either. So there's a lot going on, and the lack of the run game, too pass heavy, the offensive line. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
I don't know how you fix it within the next few days. For
well, I
Philly.
mean, it's
they're
almost like
over 2-1 pass to run right now, which that's
Yeah,
got to
crazy.
come back down big time.
it's almost like Sam Howell is a young guy who needed time to develop
Right.
before they threw him in there. I wonder who ever said that.
Well,
Oh yeah,
and look,
Alex said that many times.
Yeah.
We
mean,
all said it. I said
yeah,
it. Alex
That's
said
true.
it.
we've all. I mean, I think Steve, you and I are both always in the camp of let a young quarterback
Yeah.
sit.
Mhm.
But at the same time, even though I'm in that camp, he does need to play to kind of figure out where he's at and develop like this.
Yeah, but just
We
being in the NFL and practicing and watching it for a while,
it helps.
when you're a young guy who needs work, I mean, that's not a bad thing.
No, I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers had to sit for 3 years.
Yeah,
It really
exactly.
helped him, honestly. He has nothing but contempt for it, I think. But
He's sitting now, though, isn't he?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, right.
That's a whole other thing. But Aaron Rodgers had to sit. Tom Brady had to sit a year. A lot of great quarterbacks spend time on the bench learning, by watching first, and then they get in there. And I know that was more true back in like the 80s and before, but it's still true today. You still see plenty of quarterbacks who they weren't getting the ball week 1 rookie year. Like that's still something I think people try to avoid.
Yeah, and so I think it would have been helpful here, but Ron Rivera just has had no plan at quarterback,
No. But that said, I don't mind the fact that they are giving Hal a shot right now. All that said, I think I can see the issues. We all can see the issues. I can also see a lot that you can build around. If he can work out the timing issues, which hopefully will happen over the course of a season.
And I think he can.
Yeah. There's enough there, talent-wise, where you could say, I could build an offense around
I
this.
mean, he's got a strong arm.
He's got a strong
athletic.
arm.
He's can move. You
I
know,
think he's shown that he's got the mental toughness. Obviously,
seems like he's got decent leadership abilities.
Yeah.
The players seem to like him. So all
Yeah.
that's positive. And I definitely don't think the team needs to overreact.
No,
He's had
no.
2 mediocre games, the up and
two
down
decent
games, and in one horrible game. But it's early. He's a young guy. I certainly don't. I think the worst thing like the team has done to quarterbacks for years now under multiple coaches just get frustrated and bench these guys. Sometimes you
Now,
got to let some of these guys play through it.
now
Right.
I will say one thing. I tweeted this out, and I honestly got a lot of people mad about it during the game. After the third interception, I said I would pull him, like
Oh, you
for
did
the
say
rest of the
that.
game.
I don't know if I would have done that.
I, I feel like after pick number 3 and sack number 6, there's nothing he can gain from just continuing to get demolished out there as a young quarterback. I would have put Jacoby Brissett in just to finish the game and keep him healthy, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
And the
I don't
one
know if I agree.
aspect, and the one aspect where I do kind of agree with that is that Sam Howell isn't of the same mental mind frame as someone like a Carson Wentz. You do that to Carson Wentz, and you'd probably lose him mentally for the rest of the year. Sam Howell, he's not built that way. He's not like that. I think as long as he knew that you were going to go back to him and give him that opportunity
Sure.
to still keep that job, which I think they would have anyway. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
mentally he would have been okay with that. So I think it's kind of a little bit of a different situation. That's where I think I kind of agree with Alex in that, but I still have no problem with him staying in the full game either. On top of that, but
Also, it's kind of a bit of a tough love too. It's like, look, dude,
yeah,
you made this bed. You got to lie in it.
very
There's
true.
that aspect of it too.
I mean,
I understand your point, Alex.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I don't know if I fully agree with it, but I understand what you're saying, and
I don't
that's
think
something many
either.
teams have done.
It's a decision the coaches have to make.
Yeah.
And I think Rivera even said they were talking about it on the sidelines if they should make that move at one point, but they didn't, obviously. So it is what it is. I just don't want to see this guy. If this week, if he's as rattled, I think then you really do have to have that discussion.
I want whatever we have to do to get this man to 100 sacks in a season is what I want.
That's your goal now. It's not Sam's development. It's
No,
sack-
it's not.
it's
Yeah, I
Steve's sack
want to
record.
see that's more interesting to me than like this guy developed from a 5th round pick into a mediocre, halfway decent starting quarterback. That happens all the time. 100
It's
sacks in
never
a year
happened.
is special. What's that?
I don't think it's ever happened. Did we go through that? That no 5th round picks ever developed into mediocre?
No. There's been a handful of Tom Brady's in the Hall of Fame, he's 7th rounder. I mean, there's others.
Look at Brock Purdy.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. But that is less interesting to me than like we're setting an all-time record here. That's great. I mean, I'm rooting for that. I'm rooting for another 9 sacks.
But that's such a tiny tyrant error type of record though.
Yeah.
That record should have happened under Danny Boy.
Danny,
That's so
one thing,
fitting for him.
at least Danny had some outstanding left tackles.
Yeah,
That
that's
is true.
It's been Ron Rivera that got rid of the Hall of Fame left tackle and the Pro Bowl guard and all of that stuff.
And then
Let's be honest,
follow up
though,
the year after that with 10 picks in the draft and only using one of them on an offensive lineman. Then the year after that, using the last pick of the draft for a developmental guard, only to bring in 2 has-beens.
Yeah, so it's really not a tiny tyrant thing. It's really a Ron Rivera thing.
And let's be clear, Josh Harris bought the team with like 3 days before training camp. This is still a Dan Snyder roster.
I don't think he walked in and dictated the draft.
No. I don't think I think he was probably told you're not allowed in the building.
I just think that Ron Rivera's a bad drafter. That's what I think.
No question.
I'll be honest with you. I think Josh Harris is already lining up his future GM right now. Especially with the comment going into this week's game is, well, some teams win games they're not supposed to win, so hopefully that's this Sunday. I mean,
great?
I mean, come on, man. Seriously. I got all the confidence in you.
It's like, I know you guys suck and they're better than us, but maybe hell will freeze over and you can win a game.
Right.
Yeah,
That's kind of what he's saying.
Worst motivational.
You can hear it's like like you just said, Alex. It's just yay, wave
Yeah,
tiny little flag.
right. And they're white flags. I mean,
Exactly. Of
let's be
course they
honest.
are.
To
Yeah.
me, it just seems like he's just exhausted. He's done. He's waiting for the year to get over now. When you make a comment like that this early in the year, I mean, you're
Yeah,
2-1 at least. You're still 2-1. You may
See,
not
that's
be a good
unexpected,
2-1, but still.
my It's Just Business partner Chris Larry on the last It's Just Business. We recorded that show before the Bills game.
right.
And what he said at the very end, we always do a little, for those who haven't listened, a little promo for the Hog site. Chris said something like, they don't really need to win, they just need to look competitive. Because I
They did
think
not.
no, that's the problem. It's what we saw 2 wins, great, but the NFL did not take them serious as a legitimate power. 2 wins because they were the two of the worst teams in football, and Washington didn't
Right.
look particularly great in either one of them. The Bills game, if they had played tough and lost, a few people would have said, "Look, hey, they played tough, but they got blown out, and they looked bad getting blown out." And that, especially when you're a team with a history of Washington,
Yeah.
you just get
You
poured
don't
right in
get
the
slack.
trash can.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have no slack that they can give you.
So they're back to zero in the eyes of the football world.
So we've talked about the offense. I feel like I know it's been very just Sam Howell focused, but that was the story number one with the offense. Defense really didn't play great either. Let's be honest. I
No,
mean, they played well till the end. They held them to 16 for a long time, but they didn't get a lot of pressures. They didn't get any turnovers.
they
Like
got
the
very
things,
little pressure. Yeah, very little pressure.
yeah. Honestly, anytime they got pressure, Josh Allen ran for 30 yards. So
Yes.
like it didn't go well in any way for this
Now,
defense.
I don't think it was like a disaster for them. Um, because all the turnovers. I mean, Washington handed them, a bunch of turnovers. And just
Yeah.
like for context, I'm not going to go read all these stats, but like Josh Allen only had 218 yards passing.
Right.
As a team, they had 168 yards rushing, which is good but not great. Stephon Diggs tore everybody up. 8 receptions, 111 yards.
But he's Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, but he's Stephon Diggs. And so those aren't, considering they put 37 points up,
Mm-hmm.
those aren't like disaster numbers. And so the defense, yeah, they didn't look particularly great, but it wasn't like a game they need to go hang their head in shame over, because a lot of those points came from turnovers.
Well, the
Yeah.
linebackers need to hang their heads in
The
shame.
linebackers do need to hang their heads in shame.
Because
Yes.
I cannot tell you how many times I sat there and right there in my seat in my poncho as the rain pouring all over me, sitting there. I see he gets some pressure on the edge, and and the Bill's offense line opens up a hole up the middle, creates a lane, and I'm seeing zero linebackers in the vicinity at all. There's
Oh,
nobody there. And then you have a couple times when Barton's out there covering Diggs, like you mentioned in your article. Of course,
yeah.
that's a great recipe for success right there.
Just watching Diggs literally run right around him.
Yeah, it's just brutal. It's just, I mean, I don't want to take anything from John Davis. I think John Davis is having a pretty good year. He's all over the place. He's got the range. He's playing well against the run and so forth. But when you're the only linebacker doing anything against a linebacker who's just completely terrible, there's not much John Davis can even do on his own because he is on his own. He's by himself, and he's not a great player. He's not a great impact linebacker. So he's a role type of guy. He's a guy you put next to an elite middle linebacker, but you don't have that.
So your seats are not under an overhang?
No, they're not.
There's no overhangs.
Oh, that's
Well, I
right.
mean,
There
there
aren't.
is on the bottom tier, I guess, but there's
The
Okay.
200 level has the overhang.
But you're not an overhang. How long
No.
did you stick it out to the bitter end?
I never leave a game early, but I'm going to tell you something. That game going into the fourth quarter, when Hal threw his, I think it was, I was waiting through his fourth interception going into the fourth quarter or late third quarter.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I turned to my wife and I'm like, I want to beat the traffic out of here. And her eyes were just like, what? I'm like, sure. Because I never leave a game. I just don't. I'm just like, you know what? This is just pathetic. I was surrounded by nothing but screaming Bills fans, and three of them were women behind me that were just super into the team. And I'm gonna tell you something. They were three women that knew football, the way they were talking too, and they were
Well,
just screaming for Josh Allen, talking about what's going on in the field. It was just driving me nuts. I was
I
like, you
mean,
know what?
left.
I got
Bills fans, that is their, the one thing is women born in Buffalo know football.
What else do they
yeah,
have to do in Buffalo?
Yeah.
You know?
right.
Eat buffalo wings and no football. That's all they do.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
nothing else to do.
yeah, and drink
But
beer.
I will tell you a funny story though. I was sitting there. The one man behind me that bought the club seat tickets right there. Obviously, that's all he did was complain about the stadium. They don't have bathrooms evenly spaced anywhere. The actual stadium looks like an absolute rat's nest. It's complete. There's just no
He was complaining about the Bill Stadium or our stadium because I
our
don't know
stadium.
which.
Our stadium.
Okay.
Yes. And he's talking about with the concessions, how the concession stands are all set up. Yeah, trash cans are like 100 feet away from each other, which I didn't understand that when they were everywhere. But I mean, it was just nothing but just degrading the actual stadium. And then the girl right behind me turned around and was like, "Well, I don't know. I got the same club seat tickets, and I have no problems with the food around here. I get everything pretty quick, and the bathrooms aren't that far apart, so they're kind of going like, I'm just sitting there going, well, it's a
I
toilet
did
bowl, but it's my toilet bowl,
I
okay?
did see a list a week ago. I didn't bring it on the show, but that rated every NFL stadium, and the FedEx
And they were
Field
near the bottom,
was last, dead last,
right?
32.
Well, see, the biggest problem they have is the fact that everything is just terrible. I mean, everything is just dilapidated. The seats are in bad situation. We had the whole thing with the raw sewage last year. you
Yeah.
know. But I mean, when it comes to the food there and the concessions, it's actually not that bad.
They've
Well,
made some real upgrades there.
Yeah,
since I
You
have
know,
done stadium development, allow me to disclose the food in all these stadiums comes from one of two
they're
companies. Okay, it's mostly Airmark, but there's another one, and so all these like the names you never heard of on the little like the sandwich place and stuff, it's all just Airmark stuff. So the food is basically is unless you get local name brand restaurants, which some of them have,
yeah, and
all
they
the
have
Airmarks.
there's one right by Dave that's a local name
Yeah,
restaurant.
I mean that's different, but most of the rest of the food is all the same in all the stadiums. I mean, in roughly.
Right. And lastly, on the linebackers, can we please put Khalid Hudson in just to see if he can play linebacker?
Can he
He's played
actually
one
play
snap.
football?
and bang Jabril Cox off the practice squad for crying
Yeah.
out loud.
Try everybody. Like, Cody Barton, I get it. He's the middle linebacker, and you want him there to call plays. He's just not impressive, though. And, I feel like Khalid Hudson's probably got a little more speed. He's not as good of a player, but he's probably a little faster than.
He's also not that big either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter because I mean Cody Barton cannot shed a single block that comes to him. He can't get around it. He can't get through it. I mean, every time I see a lineman come down to the second level on him, he's out of the play. Done. Over.
Yeah.
I've
I
never
agree.
seen a linebacker taken out as often as he is.
This is why he shouldn't be starting.
Right.
Exactly.
Maybe,
This
gosh,
is why,
I mean, maybe they should have drafted a linebacker. There's
Yeah.
a thought.
or even kept Cole Holcomb, who was not perfect but was better than
At
this.
least competent. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think Holcomb has had a good year so far in Pittsburgh, from what I've heard. So,
Well, well, Cole Holcomb would have prevented maybe at least one of those Josh Allen runs because he would have been there in the way.
right. He knew how to get to his position.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, on good news, Cam Cheeseman, good job. You had 1 for 1. So, kept your job for another week.
Avoided being cut. They're not going to cut him during the season. Where are they going to find another long snapper? They're not.
Back alley. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
Steve, there's 300 college football teams. That means
Yeah, but
there's like 50 long
I'm
snappers
telling you
a
though,
year.
that I talked to the premier long snapper coach in the country. Rubio was his name.
And he told you
last name.
Cheeseman was the best.
He told me Cheeseman was one of the 3 that were the best.
Yeah.
And all 3 of the ones that he identified were the ones that got drafted. Were those 3 guys?
I understand that. I'm just saying, it's not like there's no long snappers. There's not a lot that
There's
even
literally a long snapper they could sign, yes, but
No,
is it better? No.
it's funny that you mentioned Cheeseman because I saw a post that said, Cheeseman was drafted at what, pick 245?
Yep.
And there was this offensive lineman by the name of Trey Smith that Kansas City drafted at 226 immediately after him. You just type in the search bar and Trey Smith on Twitter, and you will see Ross Tucker, Brian Baldinger, let's see, local chief guys, Jeffrey Schwartz, and all, just raving about how good this guy developed into a guard. And guess what? We kind of need it right now with a guard.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy. It's just, but we took a long snapper.
They did need a long snapper.
At least he
to
was
be
one
fair,
for
but-
one.
Yeah,
sure. And
you could always just take a long snapper. I don't know, in the 7th round. I feel like
or
you might
I
not.
know what-
free agent.
But because I was talking to that Rubio guy,
Yeah.
I actually saw what happened. I was paying attention to it. I can't remember their names, but the first one got drafted in the round before, the number 1
Yeah.
guy.
Yes.
And then whatever team, because remember Washington jumped up, traded up.
Yeah, they were afraid to not.
There
get
was another team, and I can't remember who it is, that also needed a long snapper, and so that's why they drafted this guy. And the third one wasn't as good as Cheeseman and the other guy. I mean, according to the Rubio, the coach I talked to.
Yeah.
So but if you have to pick long snapper or quality guard, I'd pick the guard.
Yeah.
Yes.
To your point. Not if you're Ron Rivera though. You're going to draft 2 corners.
But I just saw that post today with Cheeseman and Trey Smith, and you guys bring that up, and I'm like, man,
How's Cody Mosh doing? I wonder.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything negative, so it's got to
No, I
be
have
pretty
not.
good. So
I mean, look. Part of it in the draft, there's always guys taken after your pick that you're gonna wish you had grabbed.
sure,
You're
right. Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
I think technically wasn't that the draft where San Francisco got their quarterback? Is
Brock
that
Purdy, I want to say yes.
Yeah, that's the
think
same
so,
year,
yes.
right? So no matter what, there was a franchise quarterback apparently there that we could have grabbed in every round.
To your point, that's true.
Yeah. So there's always regrets, but with Rivera, there's just a lot of them with these draft classes. Also,
not
they
that
don't
great.
focus on offense at all.
He's not that great a coach.
No.
And by the way, Cody Mosh is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting right tackle.
We don't need a right tackle, though. We're good at right tackle. It's not like we have some guy there who they spend a lot of money on and he completely whiffs
did I
on
say
at least.
tackle? I meant right guard. He's
Right
the
guard,
guard.
right
Oh,
guard,
yeah.
right guard.
Okay. Right guard we're actually okay at. Damn.
And but he would have been a perfect left guard for us right there. Even though actually Sidney Charles had been playing decent.
Yeah.
I think Cody Moss I'd much rather have though.
Honestly, our issues with the line are really just left and right tackle.
Yeah, that is true.
Especially
against those real high level athletic edge rushers. They're just it's just a revolving door.
Well, and they don't have any help at tight end. That's the core issue. Is the outsides.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, Steve. We need to move on, don't we?
You didn't have to announce that to the world.
Yeah.
You could have just done
I
it.
heard the pop. And your face was just like.
I'm done with this. Let's move
yes,
on.
I'm so done with this. All right, let's talk about the Eagles. Dave's hometown. That's where Washington's heading next to get their butts kicked up in Philadelphia.
Things sure to go wrong.
Things sure to go wrong. So here, one thing I'll say, and I just had this thought, because we're talking about the draft. I'm pretty sure the only reason Ron Rivera drafted 2 corners is because he's so petrified of the Eagles receiving core that he was just like, I need more corners. I need more corners. I don't care that, my offense is terrible. I just need more defense. I think that's all that went through their mind when they made those picks.
Could have been. There's
Yeah.
crazier reasons for doing it.
Yeah, because it's not like you were terrible at corner. You probably needed 1, but you didn't need 2.
Yeah, but what does a corner do to help prevent you from Jalen Hurts running all over you? Not much.
No, that's true.
Nothing.
That's where
Zero.
a
Yeah.
good linebacker would help against that one.
That's true. That's also true.
But
Okay.
the Eagles game is very, very scary. That's for sure.
All right. So look, Eagles. Eagles this year have been, as measured by yards per attempt, the second best rushing offense in football.
Mm-hmm.
Passing, they're not that.
They haven't attempted a lot of passes.
No, that's what I'm saying. They've been a
Yeah.
running team. In terms of raw attempts, they're oops, that's the wrong team. They're way down there. They are 25th in terms of passing attempts, number of passing attempts. Quarterback rating, they're 21st. This is a team that at least this year is living and dying by the run. And they have 113 rushing attempts, which is the most in the NFL. So what does this tell you? This tells you, and Jalen Hurts is part of this. He's mobile. This tells you that Washington's defense, say it with me, needs to stop the run.
Yes.
That's job number one for Washington's defense. Can they do that? Open question.
Very much an open question. Looking at their game logs, did they really get 2 back-to-back games with over 200 rushing yards? That's pretty rare in today's NFL.
Well, I mean, the Bills had 168 yards, I think it was, against Washington this year.
Yeah. No, I'm saying the Eagles have had 2 games.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're the number one rushing team in football. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're ridiculously good.
And for those of you who are wondering, Washington is right smack in the middle of the pack, really at the exact midpoint. They're giving up 4.4 yards per attempt on the ground, which is tied with Atlanta, Dallas, and Kansas City, right there in the middle.
Yeah.
And where's Philly on Russian defense on that?
Philly on Russian defense is lower than that. They've given up 4.6 yards per attempt, which is 24th.
Really? That's
yep.
Surprising. But they haven't allowed a lot of rushing yards overall.
That's because teams usually playing from behind on them.
Yeah.
They're going pass mode.
Yeah, they're in the middle of the pack. Total rushing yards 2,068, which is tied for 17th. Defense, I'm talking about rushing yards surrendered.
Right.
So
right.
But the point here is that's the key. Okay, 2 keys on defense for Washington this week: keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, and stop the running game. And that's easier said than done, but how do you beat Philadelphia? That's how.
You got to key off on DeAndre Swift. That's for sure, because he's over 100 yards a game now.
Right.
Yeah. I think no question. It's all easier said than done, but focus on those 2 first. The problem is if you finally do that, the Eagles just have such a good receiving core right now. Their receiving core is what we like to pretend Washington's is, but theirs is actually arrived.
Well, I will say one thing though, Jalen Hurts in the passing game just. Right now, I don't know if there. I was even asking the guys here at work, is there something wrong with Hurts? Was there something wrong with Hurts, like some sort of an injury or something? And he also goes, he just doesn't look the same right now. Throwing the ball, he's been a bit off on some of his routes, and it was kind of a lot of times in opportune times on third down situations, stuff like that. But he just right now it just looks like he's just trying to get into a stride right now.
I gotta correct myself. I was reading the wrong year. I was given 2022 numbers. So Washington in rushing defense is at 4.8 yards per attempt surrendered, which is 27th.
Wow.
Philadelphia's rushing defense is one of the best in the NFL. They're 4th, 3.0 yards per. Sorry, I was reading the wrong year. That's my stupidity. And now let me make sure here that
Yeah, because Philadelphia's given up 76, 28, and then 41 yards.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that. I clicked on the wrong page on our stat service here. So, but yeah, so my offensive numbers were right. So, okay. So, is it likely this is going to happen? No. But that's what Washington has to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
don't think any of us are going to disagree. I think the odds of if you can hold them to 150 yards, that's a win, honestly.
yeah.
Rushing.
Now, what do we think about the Washington's offense? I mean, how do you play this game? To me, it's obvious. Run the damn ball.
Well, it's running ball. It says it's running the ball, but they have to incorporate the quick passing game and the screen game that was effective early on. I mean, everything has to be underneath. They gotta spread this defense out. They still gotta start pulling these safeties up, and then you can start using. And if all that works, then you can go into play action, move Hal out of the pocket on play, on rollouts or whatever, and try to get one deep. Maybe you can get one downfield, and then you can start opening up that defense. But sorry,
I
but
mean,
that
I don't know,
defense
man. I
is
mean, the Eagles have got Darius Slay out there.
Yeah.
they got they. Well, I mean, name a level on that defense that's weak anyway. They don't have
You
one.
can't. No, you can't.
They don't have
And
one.
I'll say that, Terry McLaurin has had some ineffective games against the Eagles.
Yeah, he's
Because
had
they're
he's had a few good ones, but more often than not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Darius
tough
Slay
road to
gets the
hoe.
better of
It is a tough road to hoe this week. I think the whole key is rushing game, and yeah, I agree with you with Dave. I mean, what goes along with that is, screen passes to the flats, all of that.
Right.
That's the game this week.
And the
Sure.
one thing,
Yeah.
and the one thing that people don't understand, this isn't Week 10 last year, where Philly comes in undefeated. You can catch them off guard and win. This is early in the year. Week 3 and Week 4 is when good teams they start hitting their stride right now. This isn't the point of the year where good teams and especially Super Bowl contending teams just like, oh, we laid an egg. This isn't the week that happens.
No. And I'm looking at the game logs for each of Philly's first couple games because, like we said, they've clamped down on the run of each of their opponents.
Right.
The one thing that I will say might help Washington, or it's looking for a ray of hope. None of the first couple teams that they played really has a good running back. Ezekiel Elliott's the big name they played Week 1 for the Patriots, but let's be honest, he's not
a shell of himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was out of shape when he went to New England. If you saw any videos of him, he should be playing on the O line. That's Ezekiel.
Are you saying he was fat?
Yes.
And as long as they keep the ball out of Antonio Gibson's hands, especially inside the red zone, the running game should be decent.
Let's see the new kid, Gomez.
I would love Rodriguez. I would love to see that. Yes.
I like Chris Rodriguez. I think he's got talent. I told somebody the other day, if you need an emergency pickup, if you've got Brian Robinson, pick up Chris Rodriguez, if he gets hurt, on your fantasy team.
Yeah.
I think Rodriguez has got talent.
I think he does.
I'm at a point to where, you see what he could do on the field in the passing game as well right now, because you need to have both him and Robinson on the field right now on his ball, because I'm sorry, I just do not trust Antonio Gibson at all.
And by the way, speaking of Gibson, to the guy in the comment section and on the webpage on thehogsty.com who said Antonio Gibson needs to be a slot receiver, I completely disagree with you. Antonio Gibson's college film did not show a quality receiver, which is why he's a running back. So I do not think you are. I appreciate the football discussion, but I do not think you are right, Mr. Comment person.
I mean, look, I think if you look at his college shape, he was good at the fact that he was probably the best athlete on the field.
That was exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was, he was just faster than everyone else at Memphis.
I mean, that's not to say like Washington couldn't line him up there, sometimes and, mix things up, but the idea of having Antonio Gibson basically be the kind of more or less permanent slot receiver, I think is not his talent. Really, I mean, he ought to be Mr. Screen Guy.
He should.
Right.
That's what you should be using him on, like second down, shotgun, screen pass to Antonio Gibson. That's the perfect play for it. Maybe occasionally he goes in the flats too. But he shouldn't be running the ball. You need to keep him away from guys bigger than him when he's got the ball.
Right.
That should be the number one priority. Yeah. I don't know. I don't see any real way for them to win this thing. Honestly, we're getting towards the end of the show, so we got to do our predictions, I guess. I'll just go first. I think we get blown out here too. This is going to be 30-10, something ridiculous like that.
Okay.
I go 34-13.
I'll go. I'm along with you guys. I'm gonna go. I'll go 32-10.
Sure.
It's
All
going to
right.
be ugly, folks. That's what we're saying. And because we all say it, look, they'll have some rebound game.
Yep. Hey, if they do, we're happy.
Yeah,
I'm kind of neutral. I'm kind of agnostic about it. But
Sure. Well, you're just mad because it means that that sack total now is gonna look like 98.
That's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for. We got to hit double.
Yeah.
Look, if I need to do, maybe I need to do a pep talk for the team. You can do it. You can get it done. That's a record that is achievable. And within your grasp, you have the talent to make it happen.
Sam, grab another mouth guard.
Have 100. Yeah, exactly. Strap it up, suck it up. You can get there 100 sacks in a year. I'm looking forward to it.
That should do it for us this week.
And on that note.
On that note, we will talk to you all next week after
Yes,
whatever
sir.
happens.
Yep.
Later.
See it.